Rita Hester was born on November 30th, 1963 in Hartford, Connecticut. Always feeling like a fish out of water in her hometown, she moved to Boston in her early 20s, where she established a life for herself, settling in Boston's Allston neighborhood. She frequently attended rock concerts in the city's local clubs. She loved to cook. She loved to watch figure skating on TV. She often took vacations in Greece to soak up the sun. An attractive and naturally gregarious person who had no difficulty making friends from all walks of life. Friends describe Rita as an individual who was, quote, well and deeply loved by many. Rita Hester was also a transgender woman of color who would never live to see her 35th birthday. 2 days before, on November 28th, 1998, she was murdered in her apartment, stabbed over 20 times by an unknown individual. A vigil held in her memory in Boston was attended by over 200 individuals and was the impetus for trans justice advocates Gwendolyn Ann Smith and Penny Ash Matz to observe the first Transgender Day of Remembrance in 1999 with vigils in both Boston and San Francisco's Castro neighborhood. The observance was eventually moved to November 20th, where it has been celebrated every year since. I have to admit that even though I am a member of the LGBTQIA2S+ community, and I consider myself to be fairly well versed in our history, I had never heard of Rita Hester before I began researching and writing this sermon, even though I have been involved with Trans Day of Remembrance services for many years. This is, sadly, not an unusual phenomenon. Trans history is rarely included or taught in schools. In fact, there is an endless array of state legislation across the country to make sure that nothing having to do with the existence of the transgender community is even mentioned in schools or colleges. Trans issues remain largely unreported in mainstream media. In 2023, 392 transgender, non-binary, and gender non-conforming individuals were reported killed in anti-trans violence worldwide. 62 of those were in the US alone, and 80% of those were people of color, specifically Black trans women. Since the Human Rights Campaign began keeping records in 2013, 231 trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming individuals have been reported to have been killed in anti-trans violence in the US alone. And these are only the ones that have been reported. There are countless others that go unreported. And the numbers continue to go up year after year after year. The sad reality is that the trans community has lost and continues to lose so many people to violence that it becomes difficult to remember all of the beautiful and vibrant lives that have been taken too soon. And those like Rita Hester, whose murder still remains unsolved 25 years later, are too often forgotten. November is designated as Transgender Awareness Month, and many trans justice advocates are advocating for celebrating November 20th this year as a Trans Day of Resilience, as opposed to simply a Trans Day of Remembrance. The idea is that, while it is important for us to remember and honor the lives stolen by anti-trans violence, it is also about recognizing the courage, individuality, and identity of trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming peoples who remain resilient and continue to live their lives in spite of the violence directed against them and their community. It also serves to humanize those individuals as children of God, whose presence makes a difference of our lives and contributes to our greater beloved community, instead of being nameless and faceless numbers in a set of statistics. To quote the mission statement of the Trans Day of Resilience project, established by Forward Together, an Oakland-based LGBTQIA2S+ advocacy group, quote, "Our rebellious mourning recommits us to the living. We refuse to regret or forfeit our power, even in the face of epidemic violence. We remember we are pure possibility. Our freedom dreams can set the whole world free. How recommitted to the living are we? How committed to the living have we ever really been? Unitarian Universalists have been historically known as a people of faith who affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. But affirming is an action verb. It is not simply recognizing inherent worth and dignity. Anyone can say that they do that without having to necessarily lift a finger to actually do it. But an affirmation is a call to not only declare publicly that we see the inherent worth and dignity of people, but then go out and actively work in the service and promotion of their inherent worth and dignity. It is shouting from the rooftops that not only do we affirm and promote it, but that others should be affirming and promoting it as well, and that we are, and that our advocacy work is not done until universal recognition, respect, and protection of that inherent worth and dignity is finally achieved. We can play an active part in the resilience of our trans siblings by being active participants in helping to bring about the full recognition of inherent worth and dignity that they deserve. Unitarian Universalists have historically been a safe space and a voice in society for the oppressed and marginalized. It is the reason that countless trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming individuals have come through our door and found a home here. It is the reason that countless individuals committed to full inclusion for the trans community have come through our doors. It is because we know that social justice and community advocacy is as much a part of our faith as the services we have on Sunday. And we know that there is power in standing up as a people of faith and using our voices to advocate for positive social change. We are a people who are not ashamed of the fact that we have supported full equality and inclusion for all sexual orientations and gender identities since 1970, one of the first mainstream religious denominations to do so. We are proud of the fact that our UUA General Assembly made the intentional step in 2007 to declare again its commitment to full inclusion of trans individuals and passed a resolution stating, quote, "We not only open our doors to people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, we value diversity of sexuality and gender and see it as a spiritual gift. We create inclusive religious communities and work for LGBTQ justice and equity as a core part of who we are. All of who you are is sacred. All of who you are is welcome." I imagine by this point of the sermon that there are some of you who may be thinking to yourself, "Reverend Matt, I want to support the trans community, but I do not know how or where to begin." That is okay and a perfectly valid place to be. The first thing that I would say to start is take the time to educate yourself. Uplift, the LGBTQ plus ministry section of the Unitarian Universalist Association, has a wealth of information and resources, including those specifically about the trans and non-binary community, to help you learn and know more. The second thing, which is perhaps even more important, is become acquainted with organizations in your local community that are already doing the important work of supporting the trans community and working in solidarity with them. The San Joaquin County Pride Center, many of whose staff members have been guests here at our church, has a task force that is specifically tasked with supporting the trans community here in Stockton and San Joaquin County and raising awareness for issues affecting the trans community both at the state and local level, in addition to hosting support groups for trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming individuals to have a safe place where they can be themselves and not have to worry about everything they have to face in the world outside. Their community center on Yosemite Street also acts as a drop-in space during the week where you are free to stop by and learn about the work they are doing, and a staff of wonderful folks who are happy to stop, have a conversation, answer questions, and help to point you in the right direction. Another newer and equally important community organization is Central Valley Gender Health and Wellness, which began operations in 2022. Founded by local trans rights advocate Simone Reyes, their mission statement speaks of working to improve the health and well-being of the LGBTQIA2S+ community with a specific focus on transgender people of color, and providing more accessible and comprehensive healthcare services, including mental health support and substance abuse resources, in the Central Valley of California. They also offer and engage in a variety of educational opportunities, including cultural sensitivity training and harm reduction, as well as participating in advocacy on the local and state levels. And finally, please know that supporting and lifting up the trans community does not necessarily have to come at the expense of a grandiose gesture. It can be simple as sharing your pronouns or wearing a pin displaying your pronouns. Pronouns may seem like a simple thing, but being intentional in sharing pronouns and inviting others to share their pronouns is an easy way to show respect for trans, non-binary, and gender non-conforming individuals, and also to demonstrate that we as a community are taking steps to become a space that is truly welcoming and inclusive for people of all genders. On this day, and as long as we have breath to do so, may we remember all of the beautiful trans lives that have been taken from us too soon, and may we work to eradicate anti-trans violence in our societies. But may we also on this day celebrate the resiliency of those in the trans community who continue to contribute and to touch our lives in the face of transphobia, bigotry, and hatred. And may we ever continue to play our part in walking alongside them to ensure their continued resilience and illuminate the path towards a more inclusive and affirming world. May it ever continue to be so. Blessed be. Amen. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Thank you all so much.